Coming up next on the Wet Fly Swing podcast.
I don't know if you've ever heard a smallmouth take a cork bug in the way that they actually do. They sip bugs. They don't really aggressively smash a bug like you would think they would. They go and they sip this bug, and you know it's a smallmouth when you hear this sound. It's like a toilet bowl. It's like it's such a weird sound, but man, that is addicting.
That was Christian Miles describing his go-to flies for smallmouth. Walking you through some of the most classic waters and flies today on the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show.
Welcome to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show, where you discover tips, tricks, and tools from the leading names in fly fishing today.
Hey, how's it going today? Thanks for stopping by the show. Would love if you can take a moment. If you've been enjoying this podcast, been listening to a few episodes, you can share this. That's the best way that we found that grows the show. If you know somebody who needs a little summary on Virginia fly fishing smallmouth, some tips and tricks, then share this one out. Click that link in your app and give her a go. Today's episode is sponsored by FishHound Expeditions, putting together remote Alaskan fly fishing trips for your next big trip of a lifetime. We're going to be heading up there this summer to dial this in, so if you want to check out more and connect with Adam and the great stuff he has going, wetflyswing.com/fishhound. Right now, that's FISHHOUND to get started with FishHound. We're also sponsored by Angler's Coffee, roasting a full range of coffees with one goal in mind, delivering excellent coffee to every single angler. You can head over to wetflyswing.com/anglers right now to support anglers and this podcast. That's Anglers, ANGLERS. Christian Miles takes us into Virginia today as we talk about some of the great waters and great flies that have come out of this historic part of the country. We find out when you should be planning your next fishing trip and some of the special species that you may not have been thinking about that Virginia offers. We also talk about who the greatest fly tyer Christian knows. Digs into that. That's really cool to hear about this guy who's not with us anymore, but has a pretty awesome selection of flies. So that's it. I love these state-by-state episodes as we continue to walk ourselves around the country, and there's always much more than meets the eye. So this isn't all about Virginia. There's lots of good stuff on top of that. So without further ado, here is Christian Miles. How's it going, Christian?
Hey, doing pretty good, man. How are you?
Good. Thanks for setting aside a little time this morning to dig into some on Virginia. We're going to dig into. We're doing this little roundup around of as we have time, kind of states of the United States, and I can't remember how many we're into now. I think we're not quite at 10, but you're going to be our Virginia person today to dig into a little broad stroke of Virginia and species there. But before we get into that, let's talk. I know you do some guiding. Tell me first how you first got into fishing and then taken into the guiding.
So I think it was 11 or 12 years old. I remember, my mom, my dad, they had a lake house, and it was just a studio apartment, really, is what it was. It was on this hill and Smith Mountain Lake. And I remember, always being kind of a fishy person. Grandfather took me out to the ponds on the farm, and Dad took me out to the beach to surf fish, with just spinning conventional gear. And I just remember one of the last times we went to the lake house before we stopped renting it was, I think it was when I was 12, and I went out to my dock in the morning, and this guy was fly fishing on my dock. And, me being a 12-year-old, I was like, hey, man, you're catching all my fish. What's going on? And the guy was super, super nice, real nice guy, and was like, oh, man, I'm sorry. I didn't know you guys were here. I'm not trying to step on any toes, but, I'm just fishing the docks for some bass this morning. And I remember seeing fly fishing in shows, movies, all these different things, and I was amazed by it, but I never knew what it was. And that's when the guy, he said, hey, I'm sorry I'm fishing your dock, but let me make it up to you. And I asked my mom if I could like hang out with this guy for a little bit on our dock. And my mom was like, yeah, sure, go ahead. And little be known, he taught me how to fly fish in like 30 minutes.
Wow.
He just the basics. And he lended me his St. Croix rod. I remember it was a St. Croix, and his expensive reel. I mean, this rig was not cheap. And he just lent it to me the entire day in his little fly box and little tippet holder. And I sat there on that dock from that morning till night. I just remember how amazing it was just learning how to cast and learning how to catch these little bluegills and sunfish. And I was hooked. That was it, man. I was hooked.
That's it. Wow, that's a really cool story. I love that, man. That's like, that's giving back for sure, man. That guy is awesome to do that. So he gives you this rod. And where were you at? Was this in Virginia?
Yeah, this was in Virginia at Smith Mountain Lake.
Oh yeah, Smith Mountain Lake. Good. So we're gonna take a tour around Virginia a little bit, and so I want to start to get my bearings. But yeah, that's awesome. And that lake house, you said you're not, you guys don't have that anymore.
No, we don't. No, my mom and my dad are now separated. And my dad lives in Wytheville, Virginia, and my mom is in Salem, Virginia. And I currently live in Salem, Virginia with my fiance.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, perfect. All right, so that's it. So basically you jump right in, you got this person into, that helps you get into it. And then from that point, and then how long does it take before you start thinking like guiding is something you want to get into? And then when do you get into that?
So I remember, after picking up fly fishing, I was real young. So I had to ask my parents to buy me supplies and stuff. And from, age like 12 to, I want to say like 18, I wasn't an avid fly fisherman. I still spin fish, but I also fly fished. But each year it was becoming more of a fly fishing and not spin fishing experience. And I just remember, turning 18, or no, it was 17. Yeah, when I was turning 17, I got my first job, and I really started to do more things in the summer with fly fishing. And now I'm 28 years old, and those 10 years were nothing but picking it up every summer, learning more and more and more. It was really just a hobby, something fun to do. And then once I got into fly tying, which was about 6 years ago, that's when everything really clicked. And that's when I knew that fly fishing was going to be a part of my life for good. I had put fly fishing down for maybe a year and a half. I was in a relationship where it was a controlling relationship where, I wasn't allowed to do much. So I got out of that real quick. And I just remember, I think it was maybe a week or two after that relationship, I got back on the water, man, because I missed it. It was my calling, and it was a stress reliever and was really just a part of me.
That's it. And you're in it. And I think I ran into you. I can't remember where I think it was on Instagram. We I think I gave you a shout out, and you were working at the time for a fly shop, right? That now is not open. What was the name of that shop?
The shop was Big Lick Fly Fishing, and the fly shop is named after what Roanoke was actually named. Roanoke, Virginia was Big Lick, Virginia, way back in the day. And a lot of different places have really kind of stuck with the old traditional name of Roanoke, like Big Lick Brewing. We had nothing to do with them, but there's, different places and different avenues of businesses that have really retained that Big Lick name. And I thought it was a really cool shop. It was small. It was, single person owned. The guy was real cool to work with. Once he knew who I was and the knowledge that I knew just from self-taught, he really wanted me on his part of the team. And the team that we had were all young people. It was all young people. And the people that were in there, they knew what they were talking about. And he also was a big avid fly fisherman. And I think the shop was really, just a a dream of his. He wanted to own a shop that just, made success. But this guy, Scott, he's such a busy man and has been through so much. And same with the manager that he hired, which his name was also Scott. Men, they're just full timers. They both have beyond full time jobs, in my opinion. And to make a shop run in a hard location with all these different rules, I mean, it was just really hard, man. So yeah, it didn't make it, but I know that they're not going to stop fly fishing, and they're not going to stop pursuing their dreams, and neither will I.
Yeah, that's right. And Scott, I think I've connected. One of the Scotts was the what's his product? Is it the boots?
They're called rock treads.
Yeah, rock treads, exactly. Totally. And I know Scott, that Scott with the rock treads. We've chatted before, and I actually met him at a show, one of the shows a while back, a couple years ago, and yeah, he's a super awesome guy. So no, I agree. I think that the fly shop is that dream for a lot of people. You know what I mean? I mean, I grew up in a fly shop, so I know what it feels like, and it's one of those places where you just walk in. It's almost like Norm on Cheers. Remember Cheers, that show back in the day?
Maybe I'm still a little too young to know that one.
Yeah, you're a little too young. Well, Cheers was a back in the day when there was TV shows. I was trying to think of this. This came to my mind because the guy who created not only Cheers but like a ton of huge shows, Friends, and all these shows in the 80s and 90s, right?
Now you talk about Friends.
You know Friends?
Oh yeah, my fiance's favorite show.
Okay, we got into it. Well, the guy that created Friends, I'm drawing a blank on his name, but he's the same guy who created Cheers and MASH and all these other, like, just all the biggest shows probably in history. This guy created them. And anyways, he was talking about Cheers and how it all, how he came up with the idea. But the idea was it's set in a bar, and there's this guy Norm who comes in, and everybody, it's like a bar. Everybody knows him. It's like Norm walks in, and everybody's like, Norm. How you doing? How you doing, Norm? But it's kind of like the fly shop thing. When you get a local fly shop, it's the same thing. When you walk in a fly shop, you eventually know the people, and they're like, hey, Jerry, or, hey, Dave, or whatever, right? And that's why one of the reasons I think fly shops are amazing, right? Because you get in there, even some of these places go have a beer, right? It's that place from home. And I think instead of going to a bar, I'd rather go, a fly shop would be a better place to go. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it definitely is. There's, instantaneously, right when the fly shop opened, we had what we call regulars. We had people who were coming in for anything, tippet, flies, information on certain species, rods, reels, tackle. I mean, anything, and they really, people out in this area, especially rural areas, really wanted a fly shop here. But I don't think fly fishing in my area is very, what I would say, like, up to date. Like, it's not like going down to Florida and the Gulf inshore fishing line where there's specific people fly fishing for sea trout, striped bass, stuff like that. It's not like, or redfish, like, that's a clique. That clique is here, but it's really for those mountain streams. A lot of people come to the Virginia state line and up in Appalachia to catch our native brook trout. Like, that's a big part of Virginia. And I think, the smallmouth and musky game has started to trickle in, but it's still a tight niche family of people. And it's not blown up like I thought it was when I was really coming up in fly fishing, because I started on bass. That's what I started on.
Yeah.
I didn't start on trout. Trout to me was, I knew what fly fishermen fish for, and I thought it was trout. But when I was learning and coming up in fly fishing, I was fishing for bass. So it really didn't make sense to me. And that's why when I started tying flies and all that, that's when the trout thing really came in. And yeah, I don't know, man. It's different. Everybody learns differently. I mean, someone could learn on striper. Maybe they picked up a fly rod the first time fishing for striper and Rockfish Cove or Rockfish River, or someone picked it up at Clayton Lake where there's striper. I don't know. Like, people just try fly fishing for the first time differently, and mine was bass.
And yours was bass. That's awesome. And you're still doing that. So,
Yeah.
so good. Well, I think this is a good segue into what we're going to do, which is kind of walk around a little bit around Virginia to give somebody an idea of what it's like. And then somebody who knows it, hopefully we'll dig into a few little sweet spots that are kind of good to go. And before we get into it, I want to note James Burrows was the founder of all those TV shows. I'll put a little video of Cheers in the show notes so people can take a look. For the youngsters that don't know about it, they can watch Norm there. But so yeah, let's start with Virginia. Just, you mentioned one place, which is Smith Mountain Lake State Park, which is kind of in the, the western part, right? But do a broad stroke. If you're going to say maybe 8 or 10, top destinations in Virginia, what does that look like as you look around Virginia? Where are the places? Like if I was coming in, let's say today is, like July, August, September, like summertime, what would you, if I was coming in to meet with you, where would we be going?
So if we're talking, summertime, early fall to late fall, which I think is my favorite time of the year to fish, because you can kind of fish for everything within that time period. Half that half year, my favorite time to fish for trout is the fall, and my favorite time to fish for bass is in the summer. So if we're talking about the top 10 places to fish, and we're talking starting in summer, my first thing is the lakes. I really like lake fishing in the summer. It's hard fishing, but it's so satisfying because of the top water bite. The top water bite, late July, August, early September is just really fun, man. It's just a fun fish. It's a lot of sight fishing and blind casting under bushes and, overhanging trees on the side of the lakes. And it's just a fun way to fish. But the way that I fish lakes is probably different from the way most people fish lakes. Most people go on a boat, but my car is a small hatchback 4-door, and it is not going to pull a boat.
Right.
So I have one of these inner tubes that is made for fly fishing. It's hook proof. It's got Kevlar on the outside. It floats real well, and it's made by a company called Caddis. And I remember seeing it in a local store we have here called Sportsman's Warehouse. And I saw this thing, and I was like, no way. Like, this is going to be my way to fish off the bank. I didn't want to fish on the bank anymore. So I wanted to go back, to my roots of lake fishing with the fly. And this was the past couple of years, and I bought this too. And I blew it up, and I went out there, man, and just started learning. Everything is completely different from fishing off the bank. You think that you know how to fish when you get out there. You're like, oh man, now that I have all this access and all this, different ways of fishing the spots that I want to fish, you think you're going to do good. No, it's completely different, man. It's not the same. So Smith Mountain Lake and Clayton Lake would probably be,
Okay.
10 and 9. Those are some really hard to fish lakes, but man, you can get some monster largemouth and smallmouth bass out of them. Smith Mountain Lake is more of a largemouth lake. That's where I catch a lot of big largemouth. And Clayton Lake has some hard to find spots, but once you find them, you can pull 3-4 pound smallmouth out of that lake, and they are footballs. They're real short, but they're real fat smallmouth, man. Real hard to catch.
That's it. So that's smallmouth, and we'll circle around. I think as we get into this, we'll do a quick primer on Virginia, and then we'll circle around and dig into a little more on the fishing, as we go. So that's good. So lakes. So that's kind of one, and that's in, like we said, that's kind of near. Kind of the western, right?
Southwest Virginia is where Smith Mountain Lake is. And Southwest Virginia is, New River Valley to Roanoke Valley, down towards Manita, Bonsack area. And then if you keep on going more south, you're going towards the back end of the Roanoke River, which turns into the Stanton River once it gets to the bottom of Virginia and beginning into North Carolina. So, that whole area is really what I've fished the most. It's, following the line. And yeah, so that's
it. Take us around. So we got the Smither, and then as you go around, what would be another top destination just anywhere in Virginia that people would be like, this would be a good spot to hit up?
so another. I'll add another lake here.
Yeah.
A lake I went to recently that I can't believe I didn't hit it till now is Lake Moomaw. That place is such a cool lake, man.
How do you spell that?
Moo, like moo as in cow, and then maw as in your grandma, MAW. So
Moomaw,
MOOMAW, Moomaw.
There you go. Okay.
And I learned about Lake Moomaw years ago from a real known fly fisher, Blane Chocklett.
Oh, yeah.
He had a little insight on Lake Moomaw and Doubt Lake, or Douthat, as the locals call it. And he was talking about both of these lakes and, how to fish them and all this stuff. And I remember I was like really wanting to try Lake Moomaw because it's part of a fish species that is really hard to catch for me for some reason. I've been trying to catch it for a while. It's called the chain pickerel. And I really wanted to catch a chain pickerel. And the first time I went there, I saw some chain pickerel. And the bycatch, trying to catch chain pickerel, I caught huge largemouth, a couple trout, lake trout. I didn't know that there was even trout in that lake.
Oh, nice.
At the time. Because, this was Memorial Day. So I was like, oh, it's not trout fishing time, not for lake. Well, just fishing that lake, I caught some trout and some of the biggest bluegill I have ever caught in my life.
Nice.
They were plate-sized bluegill, humongous bluegill, and I couldn't believe it. I thought I had a bass on, and once I got it up, I was like, no way, and caught my first crappie on the fly.
Oh yeah,
yeah, crappie, and that was really cool too. And they've got carp in there and all sorts of different fish, man.
Oh yeah, you got a bunch. There's a ton of species.
Tons.
So that's Lake Moomaw. This is good. So, and this is a little bit, and how do you pronounce that? Roanoke, right?
Yeah, Roanoke, Virginia.
So this is just north of Roanoke and kind of north of I-64, I guess, kind of up there. Well, let's take it through. Let's keep this going on more like the, the season. So you talked about the fall, summer into fall. So as you go into the fall, into the winter, what are you doing there? What's fishing like? Are you getting to a point eventually where it's kind of getting nasty, where you're taking a little break as far as weather?
I never take breaks in fly fishing. I'm always fishing for some species. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a new species that I haven't caught before, or if it's a species that I want to try to challenge myself to catch in the off season. So after, the summer, bass fishing and pan fishing is what I usually focus on. I try to give the trout a little bit of time during the summer. I know it's really good time to fish for native brook trout in the summer. You get to sight fish them. It's pretty much all dry fly fishing. But once that summer gets real hot, someone told me if you're hot, the trout are hot. So I kind of leave the trout alone during summer. And once fall starts, that's when I really start to go for like some late topwater season, early trout fishing season for like brown trout. I'd start switching to brown trout during the fall. They're in pre-spawn at this time and they're starting to bulk up before the spawning season. So brown trout, I'll go to West Virginia. West Virginia's got some gems up there for brown trout, but Virginia has some secret spots that not a lot of people know about where you can catch some big brown trout, man.
Nice.
So, and they're not native, but some of the streams, they were stocked a long time ago and stocked a long time ago and then coming up. And then some are currently stocked, but are still, in my opinion, like a grade A trout fishing experience for the fall.
That's for the fall. Okay. And are there any, without giving away too many secrets, are there any really popular places that everybody would know about that you can fish browns?
Yeah, 100%. There's a place up north in Harrisonburg. There's a place called Mossy Creek.
Oh yeah, That's the Mossy Creek Fly Shop too up there, right?
Oh, yes. Amazing fly shop. Have some good friends there that I've made. They've really helped me out when I first started trout fishing. It was, I think, about 8 years ago on the fly. I remember just going in there and how amazing that shop is. It's unbelievable. They give the local people, I mean, actually, I say local people, but a lot of people travel to that fly shop. It's kind of a big deal over in this part.
Yeah. Is it near, what was the name of the town it's near?
It's in Harrisonburg.
Oh, Harrisonburg, yeah.
Yeah, it's in Harrisonburg, but the actual Mossy Creek is a little bit south of that.
Yeah, south, kind of southwest.
Yeah, but what's crazy about it is it's only about 20 minutes away. You can start fishing 20 minutes after you go to the fly shop. So, I mean, it's not far of a drive, and it's scenic. It's kind of out of the way. It's tucked, and there's ample parking, and there's no wading. You can't wade in the Mossy Creek, but you can fish it. It's all bank fishing, and it's difficult. It's difficult to say the least. It's where I learned really how to fish a spring creek.
Yeah, that's it. That's the spring creek. I just want to note we did Tom Sadler, who I think he was from the Mossy Creek Fly Shop in episode 98. We talked to him. He talked a little bit about brook trout fishing in the Shenandoah Valley.
Yes, yeah.
Today's episode is sponsored by LakeLady Rods, building distinctive custom rods, each to the exact specifications for each angler. Custom built to be the most sensitive tool an angler could ask for, LakeLady only uses top-of-line components. I've been continuing to love my 4-weight. My 9-foot 4-weight has been a good rod on the lakes. I'm going to be doing a little bit more of it on the stream. We got a trip coming up here. I'm going to be testing out with some light. I'm going to be hitting I got a couple things. I'll be testing on the light bugs and maybe even testing out some kind of Euro style. I guess that's about as good as I could say it. It's not complete Euro, but all sorts of good stuff Chris has going. Great, unique. You're not going to find much else like this with everything he has going, including the cool jungle clock inlays, the reel seat, the handle, everything else that comes in this package is pretty sweet. Check out LakeLady right now, wetflyswing.com/LakeLady, LakeLady, to support this podcast and a great local rod company. So this is good. So Mossy Creek, that's another. So for browns, and that's another species we're adding to this list. And Harrisburg is just north, kind of up the highway.
Yep, it's right off I-81.
Yeah, right off I-81. That's awesome. So that's good. So now we're kind of a little bit more up in the northern part of Virginia. What's the so that's kind of fall. So that's awesome because now brown. So if we keep this going as you go in through the winter, what else are we thinking about? What else are you hitting in the wintertime?
So in the winter, that's when I kind of, that's our main trout season for me anyways. That's when I try to focus on trout. I don't really go for bass during the winter. Is it possible? Absolutely. But it's more of a bigger river when you're going for bass. There's some crazy people out here that really like to fish for smallmouth and in the big rivers here. And, they focus on the New River and the James River. I see them all the time. You would think, man, it's like 40 degrees outside, like crazy to be fishing right now. Well, to a lot of people up north, this ain't nothing, And I think some of these northern people have moved down here to Virginia, and they're on the rivers, man, fishing for smallmouth and muskie. And so I've seen kayakers on the New and the James, early winter, late fall. A lot of people fish for them. They're on their boats too. A lot of people use jet boats as well. That's another thing over here on the river. So,
yeah, where's the New River from? What town is that near?
So the New River is right next to Radford, and it runs through Radford, and it also runs up through Harrisburg all the way to West Virginia.
Oh, yeah, so it kind of goes up north.
Yeah, so the New River actually flows north. It doesn't flow south.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's one of the oldest rivers in the world.
Yeah, the New River. No kidding. Yeah, and obviously the James River as well.
Yeah, the James River is also very old. I don't think it has the years on the New, though. But the James River flows south, and it's also pretty close to the New. You can go from the New to the James in about 50 minutes. Fishing, stopping, driving, fishing.
That's awesome. So we got some. This is good because we got some smallmouth now mixed in here. We've got some browns and brook trout. Obviously, that's another one in the.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was. So what else would you throw on here if you want to talk as you go through the year and kind of around Virginia, other hot spots?
When it gets to really the really cold winter season, that's when I go back to spring creeks. I go to spring creeks because those waters will stay warm even though the outside temperature is frigid. I fished Mossy Creek on days where at 4 a.m. when I wake up to start getting ready to leave, it's 22 degrees.
Jeez.
And that to me is pretty cold. I'm not a northerner, so
Yeah. That's cold. I think 22 is cold for anybody. I mean, that's
I actually on my Instagram I had a thing that I took down. I had it up for years, but it was winter at Mossy. I remember the first snowstorm we had in Virginia 2 years ago. It was significant. I think we had about a foot on the ground, and I was like, man, I hope that the roads are just clean because I got to get out of this house, man. I can't be in this house anymore. So I got my car, I risked it for the biscuit, and I went north, and I went to Mossy Creek. I did make it. It took me about 2 hours to get there, but I went, and when I got out of my car at 7 a.m, it was 28 degrees, and I was fishing this creek where you could put your hand in the water and actually withstand it. Like, I mean, it's amazing. It's awesome that we have fisheries around here where you can actually put your hand in the water and get the trout off the hook or whatever you need to do without freezing your hand off. So that was really cool. And there's a couple other spring creeks that not a lot of people know about that I'm not going to name on here, but they're good fishing. They're just as good as Mossy Creek.
Just as good as Mossy. Yeah, there's actually quite a few. That's a cool thing. And Virginia actually has, the Virginia Fly Fishing and Wine Festival, right? Which is, that's known, all over the country, right? I think Virginia, when you start to look into it, you're like, wow, it's got a ton of big name rivers. Another one is the South Fork of the Holston, right?
Oh, yeah. South Fork of the Holston's amazing. That runs through the very western part of Virginia. And it runs down through Tennessee.
Through Tennessee, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a really good river as well. Now that's another one that a lot of people float during the fall, winter, spring season. It's not too big of a summer. Well, I say that, but that's an all year round river. But the main seasons are fall, winter, spring, and a lot of people fish them during those times for their known humongous brown trout. Man, that has produced, I believe, fact check me, but I believe it's the biggest brown trout caught in Virginia was from that river. I don't know what the weight or the length was, but I know it was a very big brown trout. Now, I've been to the fly shops down there, and I've seen the mounts. The mounts are ridiculous, and that's one of those rivers that really you have to fish it like it's a western river. It flows like a western river. It's cold like a western river, and it also those trout are finicky, man. They see a lot of boats. They see a lot of rafts. They see a lot of flies. So that's one of those places where you got to throw like a size 20 dry, or you got to, your hopper dropper rigs are like, your leader systems are like 12 to 15 feet long. Like it's crazy, man.
Technical, super technical stuff.
Yeah.
That's cool. And, in the Shenandoah, I mentioned that earlier, Shenandoah, National Park, right? So you've got some national parks there. And I think that was the one, who was the guy, we had the big guy on the podcast from Virginia. I'm trying to think of his friend.
I know who you're talking about. It's on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember his name.
Yeah. We'll get We'll get Dom to find this one for. I'll find it real quick and check back here. But Harry Murray.
Yes, Mr. Murray.
Yeah, Harry Murray,
Yeah.
right? He's
Yes.
got his unique way, and I think he dug into a little bit on that podcast, the Shenandoah National Park, because I think he wrote a book for it, and then he talked. We talked about on that one brook trout fishing, right? But he's also known for smallmouth bass. So do you know much? He knows a lot.
Yeah, he knows much more about that area and specifically, and he really, he knows his stuff. If you had a question about anything in that region or smallmouth, brook trout, blue lining, that's the guy.
Yeah,
that's
the guy.
That is the guy. Wow, what a knowledgeable dude. I mean, I wish that I could talk to him in person, and I know he's got that school, right?
Yeah, he does have a school.
Yeah, he's got the school, and yeah, man, I really like to meet that guy. I've met a lot of named people in Virginia, and people from West. I've met Blane a few times.
Oh, cool.
I've met Kelly Gallup.
Yeah,
that's a funny dude.
Kelly Gallup, yeah, he's good.
Yeah. And then Tommy. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I don't want to slaughter it.
Yeah.
But I think it's Matiolli or.
Oh, okay. No, I'm not sure who this is.
So he actually ties a bunch of flies for Mossy Creek.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he ties a lot of their flies, and he is a very, very, very good fly tyer. He ties a lot of half and halves. I learned how to tie the clouser from him, actually. So he tied the clouser, and I went to one of his little seminars at Mossy Creek, and he showed me how to tie that, and then the half and half. And he also ties a lot of different flies in mass production for him. So I know he's a really hard worker, big avid fly fisherman. And then my favorite fly tyer that I met for the first time at Mossy Creek was a guy named Chuck Kraft. That is my favorite fly fisherman. That guy he's not here with us anymore. But that guy was one of the smartest people when it came to actual fishing knowledge that I've ever learned from. A lot of my flies, I used techniques that he did and then implemented them into my patterns or my version of a pattern. But really, it's just him, man. It's pattern.
Yeah.
Taking techniques from someone like that is really dialed in smallmouth and trout. When you use those techniques, they work. And the flies that I make, they work. They may not be the prettiest flies, but man, they work. And some of those name flies for him was like the Creelix or the CK baitfish or the CK nymph. And the CK in those fly names is Chuck Kraft. And he's got the clawdad, the crittermite, the topwater Creelix, but his most known namesake bug is definitely the the Excalibur or the I forgot what they're called. They're cork bugs. They're all cork bugs. But one that I bought from him, and he doesn't sell them cheap either. When he did, they are expensive bugs, but man, you can knock the side of a tree, you can knock a rock, you can lose rubber legs, but that fly
still work.
Float. Oh yeah, that fly would float and float and float, and they're smallmouth bugs is what they are. And I don't know if you've ever heard a smallmouth take a cork bug in the way that they actually do. They sip bugs. They don't really aggressively smash a bug like you would think they would. And they go and they sip this bug, and it's a smallmouth when you hear this sound. It's like a toilet bowl. It's like it's such a weird sound, but man, that's addicting. That is addicting, and that's something that, like I said, in the summer, right now is when you're getting these bites.
That's it. Wow, this is cool. So, and we, I mentioned the Shenandoah, so that's kind of in the north. A lot of this stuff, Mossy's up north. The other spots we were talking about were kind of west over there. What about as you go over to, say, Richmond, and then even down south towards Norfolk, and then you get on the coast, right? Is there some coastal fishing out there?
Oh, 100%. Over in the Outer Banks, we have some of the best saltwater fly fishing experiences you can have, man. In the state of Virginia, Chesapeake Bay.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it goes down there, and
oh yeah, that's Chesapeake. So that's that
yeah,
little peninsula coming out is the Chesapeake, is like Cape Charles. Oh yeah, and Chesapeake Bay is that whole thing. That's now we're talking. Now we've got some serious. I mean, obviously Richland's or Virginia's one of the 13. The original from the colony, right? So it's like it's got the history. That's cool. Okay, so yeah, Chesapeake Bay. This is gigantic.
Yeah, Chesapeake Bay. I've only fished it a few times on the fly. I wouldn't say I'm a salty guy, but I definitely really want to get into it. I don't live near the beach, but whenever I go to the beach, you bet my 8-weight's with me. I have an 8-weight saltwater setup that, I kind of just piece together. And every time I go down there, I'm either going for snook, reds. I've been trying to do the flounder thing. There's a couple of fly guys out there that do the flounder thing, but it's not exactly the easiest. And, just a little pinfish and porgy and all these other different species. In the blues, man, when the blues run, that's a really cool thing, man. Those fish are aggressive. You got to really tie a big leader on for them. They got these big teeth. Yeah. But yeah, there's tons of species in the Chesapeake Bay.
There you go.
Up and down the outer banks that you can fish for. But I think the biggest ones, saltwater species in Virginia, would definitely be like the striper. A lot of people go and fish the striper. They get big. They just get big in this area. And we also have them fresh. Smith Mountain Lake and Clayton, they both have striper. And also the Roanoke River. So they live in Smith Mountain Lake. And during their spawning time, they actually run up the Roanoke River down to where we call it the Explorer Park, and there's a big dam there. They can't go past that dam, but a lot of people during that April, May time frame during the spawn, they go from the dam down, and you can catch their striper in what I would consider a low river, and they're just smashing shad, smashing bugs on the top.
This would be like in a bigger river. You get in a boat.
Well, so you would think, right? But it's not. It's a wading river. You can't really.
Oh, wow.
You can't really get a boat. No, but when you can get like a kayak or a raft, yeah. But it's more of a wading river, and you'll see people throwing huge topwater plugs and spooks and all these different baits, and then you got some bait fishermen. But really, you'll see some fly guys down there too. And they're throwing these huge streamers, just stripping them back real quick. And you get those explosive takes, man. It's really cool. And that's something that I've kind of been putting off for a little bit because I'm really focusing on the smallmouth and the trout game right now. But I think striper is going to be my new species that I'm going to work on for the next couple of years. I don't guide for striper. Really, right now, I just guide for carp, bass, and trout.
Carp, bass, and trout.
I definitely want to expand into that as well.
Nice. Yeah, we've had a few striper episodes. I think we had one up in the Northeast, and we had a good one out in California. And I'm not sure the difference between but we were talking out of a boat. Obviously, that's a little different game probably than fishing off the banks. So. Yeah. So sure. We've dug around. It feels like we've got around. What have we missed? Have we missed anything? You want to give us any other highlights as far as Virginia? Any areas that we haven't touched? I mean, I know there's a number of different ones like the the Jackson River. There's a tailwater fishery there.
That was my next avenue. So definitely the Jackson. That's a place that really is different from a lot of rivers, especially in Virginia. So the Jackson. Well, I want to say plagued, but it's not really plagued to some people because that little specific spot of the river that I'm talking about, and the people that are listening that know about it, know below this paper mill that dumps wastewater. They say it's clean water, but it dumps wastewater into the lower Jackson, and you'll see this water, man. And it really breaks your heart the first time you see it, but then you're like, well, the fishing's amazing down here, so I don't really understand. But they dump this wastewater that they say is really clean, and it stains the water. And I mean, it stains it. It's if you go to the upper portion of the Jackson, it's crystal clear, man.
Right.
And then once you go past this section where the paper mill is, you'll see it dump out, and then it's just this red, blackish looking water. But the people, people that don't know about it, they go, "Oh man, I don't want to fish this water." Well, you should, because once you start fishing it, you'll pull out some massive brown trout, man. It's a really good brown trout fishery that the fly fishermen really retain around it. It's more fly fishing up there, and then you have another river that is really good during the winter called the Smith, and I've been to that a lot recently. That's an awesome river. I love it. It's beautiful scenery. It's surrounded by kind of like an old town. It's almost like a ghost town, really. There's like a mill there, and there's abandoned, I don't know what you would call that.
A logging mill or something.
Yeah, well, it's not a logging mill. I think it was a mirror plant, or something like that. Someone told me what it was, but that place is huge, and it goes right along the river, and then you have overhanging bridges and stuff, and it's just a really fun place to fish. So Smith River's another really good winter fish. But like, it's a tailwater though, just like Jackson, so you can really fish it all year round. But I think that fall and winter bite at the Smith and Jackson is some of the best.
Fall and winter,
just got to work for it.
Yeah, you got to work for it. No, this is great. So we've got a nice list coming here. It feels like I've got all sorts of places, we could go to. So anything, it feels like we haven't been down in that, like that south, central or south east part of the state. Is there anything down there, like as you get towards North Carolina, or have we already touched on some of those?
Well, so the Stanton, the Roanoke.
Oh, the Stanton.
Yeah, so the Stanton and Roanoke River. I live on the Roanoke River. I live literally walking distance, 1 minute away from the Roanoke River.
Oh, wow.
I can fish in a minute. So the Roanoke River on the upper region is really just kind of like this, I would say, quote unquote, generic river. It's got smallmouth, a little bit of sunfish, bluegill, and then it's stocked with stock trout from the state of Virginia, VGGIF. And, they stock it with brook and rainbows, and you can really catch some big ones in there. But I'm not too big on stock trout. Are they fun during like off season for like bass? Yeah. But really the wild trout is what's keen over here for fly anglers. And so when you go down and follow the Roanoke River, it goes into that dam that I was talking about where the stripers run up from the Smith. It runs down there through the Smith and then keeps on going south until it reaches North Carolina, where it changes over to the Stanton River.
Oh, and what is that near Danville?
Or
that's a little bit.
I think it runs past Danville.
Yeah,
I think it runs past, but yeah, it's in the southern region of the state. And I fished the Roanoke River / Stanton south one time. I didn't even know I was fishing it, but once you get south, a lot more species get introduced into it. There's actually a species of fish that I've been really wanting to catch that is kind of disappeared in the past 10, 20 years. It's called the Roanoke bass. It's a species relative to the rock bass, but on steroids. This fish is enormous compared to a rock bass. Rock bass is kind of like a plague fish. When you're fishing big rivers, you're trying to catch smallmouth, largemouth, whatever you're trying to catch. You'll catch rock bass as bycatch. Little rock bass. But the Roanoke bass, they can get up to 2 pounds. They're massive, and they fight harder than anything I've ever fought before. Especially when it comes to like a panfish, quote unquote panfish. And another fish that's down in the Stanton is the red ear sunfish. That's another panfish that can really get astronomical in size that you would think would just be some lame bycatch, but no, man, those things fight hard, and you just got to give them pound for pound. I think they're like smallmouth. Seriously, like they just fight so hard. And some odd species when you go up north. So now we're in late winter, and now we're getting back into spring and summer. That's when like other species like carp.
Oh, right.
Yeah, carp come into play. I really focus on carp and guiding for carp because I think it's a really technical fish that not a lot of people fish for on the fly.
Yeah.
It's become a big thing in other regions, but
Yep.
here on the East Coast, man, like we don't have as many species like Florida does. Florida, you have bullseye, you have snook, you have all these saltwater species, and then you got freshwater, like exotic species. Like recently, I went to Miami for my bachelor's party, and of course, I had to go fly fishing. And I got hooked up with this awesome guy, man. His name's Justin Wynn. And this guy is the funniest, coolest dude I have ever met. And he got me on some peacock bass in Florida, man. It was so cool. And
Nice.
Anyway, so like back to Virginia, you have all these different species that you can catch, like northern snakehead, bowfin.
All right.
Yeah, you can catch different species of carp. We have white suckers.
Yeah, I feel like you guys, I mean, you're just rattling off. It feels like there's like tons. I mean, so many species that also, all sorts of greats. And you're up on the Roanoke, so and it sounds like that's kind of your home water. Are you, now remind me again, are you in Roanoke, the town, or where you live?
Roanoke is the town, yeah.
Or Roanoke. So there's Roanoke, and then what's the name of your home water?
My home water is Roanoke River.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Roanoke is, I would say southwest. It is southwest, but in comparison to the rest of the state, like Potomac region's way up north, and then like Roanoke running in the stands way down south, and then to the east is the coast of the Chesapeake watershed, and west is more towards like the Holston. So in vindictive to everything that we're talking about, Roanoke is kind of like in the center of the state. Mm-hmm. It is kind of near West Virginia, but to me, it's the center of the state.
It's more, it sounds like it. Yeah, there's a lot going on around you. A lot of rivers. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I can go north and fish those regions. I can go west and fish, like the Holston. I can go to the beach east, and I can go fish for saltwater. I can go south and, fish for different warm water species. So
that's right.
It's kind of cool, man. I really like this region. And, me and my fiance, we talked about like maybe traveling or something with our jobs, and I want to, but I don't want to, you know what I mean?
I know.
Like I'm learning so much more each year with fly fishing in the state of Virginia that there's more species, and I have now a list that I want to catch on the fly, and like, I mean, even walleye, crappie, all these species that some people down here will catch on the fly. And they know how to do it. And it's pretty cool, man. We just have so many different species and a lot of good eating too, man.
Yeah, that's right.
Crappie are some of the best eating fish, man.
Oh, yeah.
They're so good.
That's really good. So you got Roanoke. Yeah, I mean, that's it. And so carp. So you're actually guiding for carp. So if I was going to come in there and want to find some carp, you could take me on that trip.
Oh, yeah. There's tons of places, man. So I remember learning how to catch carp on the fly was really, it was different for me. I remember seeing them in ponds when I was growing up. Pond fishing and lake fishing was my thing. So I had a pond on my great grandparents' land, and they had catfish, grass carp, common carp, bluegill, and largemouth. Kind of like the namesake warm water fishery. And it was a pretty big pond. And I just remember catching these carp, man. Holy crap, dude. They get so big, 20, 30 pounds. They're insane. So, like, fly fishing for them on the fly, what are they eating? In the summer, they're actually sipping bugs off the top. You don't really see them. They're just kind of like sifting through, and then they just come up real nice and slow and sip a bug or something. And then the largemouth, they're sipping the damselflies and eating some, bluegill spawn. And then the bluegill are sipping bugs too. And then the catfish are on the bottom just doing their thing. So carp were kind of just like, I thought you just casted corn for them. Well, the more I fished, I started to realize that you can catch carp on the fly. And there was something I watched on YouTube. It was an awesome, awesome video. I remember watching it, and it was called Carp Diem.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it was so cool, man. He just had this really quirky song that went with it. But just watching these guys stalk these fish like they're bonefish on the flats, and then like throwing these small bugs, whether it looked like something or not. I mean, they just eat everything, but then they're so hard to catch because they're so spooky. So you think that you got it down, right? And then next thing you know, you're spooking 10 fish and only catching one. So
Right.
it's really, really, really something that you have to kind of dial in and learn how to do. And it's more of a hunting experience than it is a fishing experience.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
But yeah, I think carp's definitely my favorite though.
Yeah, carp's your favorite.
Yeah.
That's cool to hear. Yeah.
Little mudfish, man.
That's awesome. No, I love it. I think carp is, it's that's what they say, right? The bonefish of freshwater or whatever.
Yeah.
Today's episode is sponsored by Bearvault, assuring your next backcountry trip stays memorable, epic, and safe. Bearvault now has 4 of these polycarbonate locking canisters, and they've put a lot of engineering and research into how to create something that a bear, even a smart bear, and those are smart animals, can't figure out how to get into this thing. So you can check out, we've got an episode, we connected with Bearvault with a little bit of that story. Pretty awesome to hear about what they have going. But essentially, this thing is, if you're heading in the backcountry, a lot of the places now, the national parks, they're requiring hard-shelled locking canisters like this. So, you used to think you could hang it up in a tree and you'll be good. So now that's not doable. So check out Bearvault. They've got a good solution, a lot of bonus features along with this locking canister. It's a good way just to not have to worry about it. You get your food in there. It's a done deal, and there's no worry about losing your stuff and turning that epic trip into something not so epic. You can check in with the crew at Bearvault, wetflyswing.com/Bearvault right now. That's BEARVAULT to check out this great solution and to support this podcast. Okay, back to the show. So you got carp and carp on your river. So, and you mentioned the best time for that is more of when would be the best month or two to go there?
So it's a spring and summer fish for sure. They really start moving a lot more in the spring. And I think going into summer, you can do the topwater bite with them. It's a little bit hard to do. But so with the guiding thing, I really like to start people off in ponds. The first time, they think it's like shooting fish in a barrel type situation, but it's really not. It's a stalking. You're stalking. You're hiding behind grass. You're hiding behind trees on the bank. You're really watching the fish. You're learning how they move. And then once you get, kind of like through the pond part, you can kind of graduate and then go into a lake, and then you're looking at the lake fish, and then these lake fish are doing the same thing, but they have a lot more movement. They can go different areas. They're sitting under bushes. Eating berries that are falling off of bushes. They're sipping bugs on the line, and then they'll move and they'll eat a fish or something, So they have, a lot of people think carp don't eat fish, but they actually will. I've seen carp run on a fish on the bank. I've seen carp sip a bug off the top, and I've seen carp eat berries.
Nice.
It's crazy, man. Mulberries and blackberries, they actually eat those. It's crazy.
Oh, wow. And Carp DM, we'll get that video out there in the show notes as well. It sounds like a good video. Yeah,
really cool, man. And then some of the other fish that, during the back into spring and summer, I really like to do the brook trout thing,
Mm-hmm.
So the brook trout in the spring is just something I give them some time during their spawning times. I look up the times for like spawning, and it really varies. It depends on the temperature of the water and the temperature of the air and everything like that, but they spawn kind of similar to the brown trout. So during that spawning period, I have fished for them before, but when I see reds and I see paired fish, I really try to stay away from them, man. It's such a good time to fish for them, but you should leave them alone, let them do their thing, let the spawn go good. So the next season, when you come back in to fish for them, you can catch those fish. And a lot of people think after, the reds are done and the fish are not paired up anymore, they think you can fish for them, but really they've had a really hard time during spawn. You should give them a couple more weeks after the spawn as well. So I don't really like to fish for them anymore. And I didn't really understand that process until a few years back, when I started learning more about the fish and entomology skills. But
it's awesome.
Yeah, but brown trout and brook trout for sure back into that springtime.
I think we have a good, I think you've taken us on a nice little journey here. I want to dig in on, and in a second here, just some flies, because you got a lot of flies on your Instagram, and I want to walk through maybe a list of some, flies for Virginia. We've talked about a lot of stuff here, but before we get here, we've got the trivia challenge. This is like, right now we got the Togans trivia challenge going.
Oh yeah.
So what we're going to do here is quickly take a little break. We're going to ask you a trivia question about Virginia, and then over at wetflyswing.com/trivia, we'll have we'll have this question. Then people can choose their answer if they know it, and then I'll be picking a winner from those to give out some swag, which right now is going to be a like $100 valued fly tying kit of like all the random materials. So that's what we're doing, and so let's do this. So the trivia challenge question. So I'm going to ask you, what do you have for us? What is the question today?
So my trivia question is, what is the only native trout species to the state of Virginia?
There you go. The only native trout species. And you've talked about, I've been making a list here. I'll bet you've named off 20 different species of fish, probably more. And so we'll get that. So right now people can go over there, wetflyswing.com/trivia. If they know the answer, if you know it right now listening, you can go over there and answer it. And then we'll be picking, we're going to do this every month. We're going to pick a winner and give out some fly tying swag. So if you want Togan's random mixture of materials, check it out there. Okay, good. So thanks for that. We got our trivia challenge in. So right from that fly tying, that question there, let's go right into the fly tying actually flies, right? So you mentioned a bunch of places all around Virginia. If you had to say again, kind of your top list of flies, let's just say whatever, 8 or 10. What are you going with? Start us off from number one. And you mentioned carp. I don't know if you want to break it down, like say your favorite carp fly, your favorite trout fly. That might be a way to go. But what would be in your box for Virginia if somebody's coming in, like I'm going to be coming in sometime this year, and I'm going to fish for all sorts of stuff? What's my box look like?
So I actually picked up a book called The Fly Fisher's Guide to Virginia.
Oh, nice.
And I have to give credit to David Hart. He wrote this book, and it's a really good book for the guide to Virginia. It really is. And it names all these rivers and different places to fish for. And a lot of the information that I've said today on this episode has come from this book.
Perfect.
And some of the flies that he has named in this book as well are truly some of the must-have flies for the state of Virginia. A lot of them I use every day when I fish, and in my guide box, I tie all these flies, and I definitely have to have them. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. And so if we're talking about, let's say, springtime, summertime for the smallmouth, I never leave without a clawdad, which is a CK fly. So clawdad is a crayfish fly. You can strip it. You can, sight fish with it for carp. You can sink it down, run it slow. You can run it in riffles. It's just a very movement-orientated fly that has some lead eyes on it, with kind of like it literally looks like a jig that someone spin fishing would throw. It's just amazing. What an amazing fly. Another, since we're on Kraft, another one is the Creelix. I don't go trout fishing without a Creelix. I don't know what it is about the fly. You would think it being so flashy that it wouldn't catch fish, but it does. It just works, man. It's just a fishy fly. So Creelix is definitely a another one. And then my favorite fly that I learned about from Mossy Creek was the golden retriever. The golden retriever is such a good woolly bugger, quote unquote, type of fly. It uses Estas and marabou and flash with a weighted head. Nothing too special, but that fly just works, man. In all colors from black, white, um, pink, brown, root beer, tan, gold, peach. I mean, all the colors. I timed all the colors. And let's see here. Another fly that was in this book is the stimulator. The stimulator, man. You can't go dry fly fishing without a stimulator. That's a really good brook trout and brown trout fly. Especially, when you're going in these spring creeks and you have these hoppers on the side. A lot of times when they're keying in on the hoppers, you can really just use a stimulator and it just works just as well, man.
There you go.
I think that's my favorite dry fly. I like the way it looks. I like the way it fishes, and I like the way it floats, especially.
Yeah, stimulator's good. Awesome.
Yeah, so that's for, I'd say, like number 5. Staying with the dry flies is one called the wolf, the royal wolf. It's kind of
royal wolf. Yeah.
So I don't know. I know it's just an attractor pattern, but like I don't know why it works so well for me. But on the Smith River, I had a fishing experience actually late spring, I'd say like 3 or 4 weeks ago, and it was just such a good experience, man. Late spring, early summer experience. I didn't know what to throw. There were these. They looked like big. They looked like some type of big moth or something. I don't know what it was, but they in this specific area of the river, and I was floating with a friend, and I remember just watching them come off and come up to the top and sipping these big bugs. I didn't know what to throw, so I thought an attractor pattern would be good at that point. And that's definitely one. That day alone has really got me onto that fly. So that's number 5. Number 6, we'll go back to some streamers. I think, you can't go wrong with a clouser, man. A clouser works. A clouser, you can use that on the East Coast. For saltwater species, you can divert it, scale it down a little bit, and use it in freshwater for the smallmouth. I'd say the best color pattern, though, would definitely be the chartreuse over white. That's a really good pattern. And then another streamer by Chuck Kraft is the CK baitfish. That has a very big profile and has a really sturdy hook, the hook that he uses for it. And it also has a felt tail. That fly, you can catch 50 fish on it, and it'll still look the way it came out when you're done making it trimmed. It's just a sturdy fly. It has lots of good glues in it that keep it welded together. And with a sinking fly line, it just fishes great, man. A lot of movement. And just I think it's more of a profile fly, so that's just a really good smallmouth fly. And I know people for striper as well, so that's a really good striper fly too. And we'll go into some nymphs now. I think a really good nymph that I've used recently has been like a sulfur perdigon. A lot of sulfurs are hatching off in these tailwaters, and I never really used I've used sulfur dries, but they really key in on those sulfur nymphs during the hatch. If you're not a dry fly fisherman and you don't feel comfortable with dry fly fishing with selective trout, you can definitely nymph a sulfur.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't know about that. That's
a good tip.
That's kind of one of my secret nymphs that I always have in my box that I have to have. And then let's see if that's number 7. 3 more. I have to give it back to Chuck Kraft again, man. I told you it's my favorite, but definitely his topwater Excalibur bugs, man. His cork poppers, man. You got to go back to his cork poppers. They are some of the best sounding, best floating best looking handcrafted bugs out there. And there's a couple people. It's a rare breed of people out there that do this type of fly tying, but there's a few people out there that do it still. And one of the people you can get them from is Eastern Trophies. I have to give it to that guy. You can get all the materials and or order the whole flies already made the way Chuck Kraft did from.
Oh, perfect.
So yeah, that's a really good site to get that bug.
Okay.
And then let's see if that's number 8. Number 9. I hate to say it, but you got to go back to the woolly bugger, man.
Yeah.
A black woolly bugger for some reason works really good for me.
Love it.
I think it can look like a bait fish. I think it can look like a leech. I think it can look like a stonefly during winter.
Mm-hmm.
I think it just has all these different things it can look like.
Yeah.
Is the reason why it works so well. So that's number 9. And number 10, I would say one of my favorite flies, man. I got to give it to Blane Chocklett, dude. The game changer.
Yeah.
The game
changer.
Yeah. The micro and the mini game changers, man. There's really good patterns when these smallmouth, trout, really any predatory game fish, when they key in on a bait fish, there's total destruction on those flies, man. With a sink tip, an intermediate, even if you're just like finesse fishing them on top, just like strip paws and letting them kill the fly, they just look so injured, like a bait fish would be injured, and then they just get crushed. And Blane really came up with a really good pattern for what he wanted made out of it. And I use game changers all the time in all different platforms. I make sculpins out of them. I'll make bait fish out of them. And, now with his little micro shanks and stuff, you can make bigger stonefly patterns and all different bugs out of the micro shanks. So it's really a platform that you can really dive into and make some really cool bugs out of.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. That is a killer list because you went down. Actually, I think we got 11. I might be off, but I think we got 11, so that's a bonus.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're all, they're huge. I mean, Stimulator, obviously that's a great old one. The Royal Wolf's probably one of the most classic, flies ever. And the Clouser. I mean, that's the cool thing about this list is this is a list you could probably use anywhere in the country. This is probably, if you had to pick 10 flies, I'll bet you at least, half of them are probably great flies for anywhere in the country, right?
A lot of those flies are, quote unquote, from like other people. I think you can catch any fish on this fly. Like,
yeah,
the Creelix and the Clouser, any predatory fish will eat that fly. Like they just catch fish, man. And then, when it comes to the dry fly, I think a Stimulator can catch anything that will hit a bug on top of the water.
Yeah.
It just works, man. And the Royal Wolf, that one was kind of like a wild card, but the Royal Wolf, after that day, I have never seen an attractor pattern work so well. And a Stimulator's an attractor pattern too, but really Royal Wolf, I don't think it represents anything, really.
No, it kind of looks like, it's got, obviously, I mean, if I always have to pick my favorite material, peacock is always,
I love
is
peacock,
there.
Man.
Right. So it's got peacock and it's got a little red, which is the thing. But so, I mean, it could definitely maybe look like an ant or something like that.
Yeah.
Who knows? Right. Stuff like that. But the cool thing about the wolf, I love the history because, that's, Lee Wolf's pattern. We had Joan on in episode 100 and, so that's like as classic as fly fish. And then the Stimulator, that was invented by Randall Kaufman way back in the 70s or 60s, and he's the guy who actually was there when they created Umpqua Feather Merchants, right? He was part of that.
Yeah, I listened to that episode.
Did you hear that one with Umpqua?
That was an awesome episode. I loved it.
Yeah, I always go back to that one because it's such a funny story. So it's all connected, but I love it. I think you've done a good job on taking us around Virginia, talking about some flies. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff here, just some random stuff I wanted to touch on. I think maybe we'll save the deep dive into some of these species, maybe for a future episode or something like that. But before we get out of here, I'm just curious. I know Project Healing Waters. I think, is that a group that you've been involved with quite a bit?
Yeah. So I joined last year, and over the past year, man, I've had experiences and opportunities to work with these veterans and volunteers, and I've made some really good friends and what I consider now fly fishing family, man. It's a really cool thing to be a part of. And how I heard about it was a buddy of mine that worked at the fly shop, and he told me about it, and I told him, I'm definitely looking to join a group like that. And the Roanoke chapter is a really special group, man. They're so thankful, and they're just ready to get out there and do something. And, you know, guiding these veterans and helping these veterans tie flies and volunteering and just fellowship and all this stuff coming together. It's just a really meaningful experience. And I had an opportunity to guide a special friend of mine, Mike. He's blind. He's blind, man. And being able to guide someone who, can't see, it was an emotional experience for me.
Wow.
Yeah, it was an emotional experience, and just such a positive outlook on life, and just, talking with him, guiding him, seeing him catch fish, man, is just like such a special.
Wow.
Yeah. And just simple stories, just listening, keeping your ears open and listening to these veterans and, go through stuff it's special, man.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that is pretty powerful because it's,
Yeah,
you don't think about that stuff, every day if you don't have that, if you're not blind, right? But that's like, imagine that, right? You're blind and you can't see. And then, and you're sitting there, basically you're his eyes, right? You're on the river and you're able to get some fish. What did that, I mean, it seems like that would be challenging to find some fish, but, it sounds like that felt pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is. And like the other volunteers that are in Project Healing Waters, like I give them so much credit. They've been in there for years. And I mean, pre-COVID, years and years and years, teaching these veterans how to tie these flies and how to explain how the fly works and the reason why they're tying it, and then going on a trip and then using the flies that they tied to catch fish. I mean, that's just something special, man. I mean, and everybody has avenues of ways to de-stress and get away from the stresses of life. And, COVID really put a damper on a lot of things. Project Healing Waters, we didn't want to get veterans sick, and having to pause that for like a year, and then, come back, everybody's vaccinated. And it was really, that's when I got, really into it. And, it's just amazing to be able to teach people things. And
love that. Yeah, it's a great group. I've connected with some of them as well over the years, so it's a good group. Well, let's leave this. I've been kind of just thinking here as we've been talking. Bears is a topic we've been talking, like beers and bears, right? I'm not sure. Do you guys have any bears at all down in your anywhere down there?
Yeah, so I've had a couple weird instances with black bears, man. So a couple things that have happened to me with black bears a long time ago when I was young. A black bear got hit in front of my grandpa on I-81, and my grandpa thought it would be a good idea to take that bear, pick it up, and bring it to my mom and dad's house to skin it, and to not waste the bear. And
oh wow.
Yeah, and I remember that was the first time I saw a black bear, and I was like, "What is this?" I was like, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years old, and I remember seeing this thing. I was like, "Wow, this is crazy!" And multiple times that I've been hiking and fishing and backpacking, I've seen signs for bears, and saying, "Hey, bear." Protect you, during this time frame when they have their cubs. You got to really be careful. It's not like Yellowstone, obviously.
No.
It's not the same numbers, but bear hunting, bear tracking, bear trapping is like a really big thing over here in Virginia. And they use the dogs with the radios, and multiple times I'm fly fishing on the mountain in Jefferson National Forest. I've had this random dog with a radio on its neck come up to me and,
oh really?
And then I'm like, what is this? And then I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. It's like bear country up here. So, I'm
Right.
out here fly fishing, and I'm in bear country without bear mace or a gun. So
Yeah,
it's kind of reminds you of that. And then
that's right.
when you're talking about brews, man, I know some brews for sure.
Yeah. Give me let's take it out of here with some brews. So we got the bears so it sounds like you guys have some local brews. What would be one good one that I should check out when I go there?
100% you have to go down and drink a Get Bent IPA. Get Bent is from a company, Parkway Brewing. They've got a Get Bent IPA. I'm an IPA guy for sure.
Yeah, me too.
Yep. So Get Bent is one of my favorites. And then, you got Three Knotch'd.
Okay.
We have a brewery down here, Three Knotch'd. That's downtown Roanoke. We also have Deschutes.
Oh, you have Deschutes there.
Oh yeah, we got Deschutes, and
Awesome.
we have Sculpin IPA.
Oh, Sculpin. Okay.
Yeah, we have Sculpin. I forgot what company makes that too.
I
There's
don't know
so
that
many, man. There's so many. I actually
That's cool.
I like to delve down into like these different companies, but a really big one that I just found out about that I'm not sure if they're in Virginia, but Three Floyds, man.
Okay.
Oh my goodness gracious, their beer is delicious.
Nice.
They
Three
make
Floyds.
they're a very good beer company, man. They have some of the best beers I've ever had in my life. And another local one is Salem Brewing.
Oh yeah.
Old Salem Brewing, man. They have
Yep.
great beers. They have live bands every weekend. They're really nice. And then Big Lick.
Oh yeah.
As well.
Big Lick.
That's downtown Roanoke. They have
Big Lick.
a great list as well. So
There we go.
there's all sorts of different breweries downtown Roanoke, downtown Salem, and then but my favorite's definitely Parkway Brewing. Yeah, Parkway is
Yeah.
I've met a lot of fly fishermen there. It's really weird. I thought I was like drinking these Get Bents and like all this stuff, and I just remember they had a live band, and I just started like talking to these random dudes that were all fly fishermen. And they were like,
Yeah.
and this is my favorite beer from here. And I'm like, okay. And then, we started talking about brook trout fishing and chain pickerel. I've been on this fish, and they were like telling me some spots or whatever. It's just really cool, man. So
Yeah.
definitely with the brews, I would say Parkway Brewing, Three Notched, and Old Salem Brewing. Those are definitely my three favorite.
There you go. All right, good. So I'm gonna keep that list going for when I make it over there, and I'll choose one of those for the list. So
yeah, for sure.
Nice. All right, Christian. Well, I think that's good. I think we feel like we dug into it. We got some a little primer on Virginia for folks out there, and if anybody has questions, we'll send them over to Miles Fly Fishing on Instagram, and they can track you down and get your email there. And man. Anything else? I guess you want to give a shout out. You feel pretty good about this one?
Yeah, I feel good about it, man. I definitely have to give a shout out to a lot of the information that I've learned over the years. Definitely a shout out to Mossy Creek Fly Fishing. They've done a lot for me and have helped me out, with gear, flies, fly tying. And then I got to give it out to Scott Souther, and he's been a really good friend to me, taught me a lot about fly fishing. He was the manager at Big Lick.
Oh, yeah.
Scott Boggs, the owner, he was a really good friend, gave me opportunities to, make some flies for shop, and gave me some extra hours, some extra money, work. So that was really cool. And then definitely have to shout out to Roanoke chapter of Project Healing Waters, man, because not only have I been able to help them, they've helped me. Helped me get through some stuff, and it's just a really good way to make friends, family. Yeah.
That's perfect. Yeah, I love ending on Project Healing Waters. I was just kind of thinking about that when you mentioned that. Is the cool thing is that where you are too, right? You're in this historic part of the country.
Yeah.
And you think about the history of veterans there, right? I mean, literally, right? That was where that this country was born, from that. So I mean, do you feel that history when you're there? Do you think about that much? Like you're in that one of those places?
I do. So if you go along the Blue Ridge Parkway. There's all sorts of memorabilia and things to read and to look at. And, that's where we grew up as people back in the day. Like that whole entire region, mountain range, just learn about it and travel through it and blue line while you're doing it, man. It's just it's a cool thing to do, and it's relaxing, and I don't think there's any other place I would want to fly fish, man.
Yeah, blue lining, that's it. Right on, Christian. Well, thanks again for all the time today. This is going to be exciting to get this one out there. And yeah, man, let's keep in touch on everything, and we'll check back with you soon.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure.
So there it is, wetflyswing.com/351. Show notes, links, videos, anything else we talked about today, you can go over to wetflyswing.com/351 to get all the information. Quick listener shout out before we get out of here. Jim Chatriand. I probably shouldn't be testing that name, but I'm giving it a go. Jim, I hope I got that close to right. I want to give you a big shout out here. We talked recently. Jim sent an email and mentioned how he's been enjoying the podcast, especially some of the Euro Nymph episodes, and he's really dug into that, and then also some of the other kind of big guests we've had on. So I'm going to keep trying to work that in. We've had Henry Winkler on in a past episode, and there's a few other people. It always keeps it fun for me to be like, okay, who's the next big fly fishing kind of mega star that we can get on? So I'm not going to hint at the next couple I'm thinking of, but they're in the works. So if you have somebody that you think you'd love to hear on, maybe as a mega star, or maybe just a cool, excellent fly fisherman, you can check in with me, Dave, at wetflyswing.com. That's the easiest way probably to, I check all those emails, and I love hearing from people. But if you're on social as well, you can ping me, wetflyswing, anytime. That's all I got for you today. I am going to be moving on to the next episode, and I believe the next episode we have is going to be going back to Stillwater with a very familiar name for those that have been kind of in the west or around Stillwater. So that's what we're queuing up next. I'm going to head out of here right now. I am, as we're doing this, just thinking about that next episode. It's going to be fun. Tomorrow morning, we're going to be getting into it. So I hope to see you soon. Hope maybe catch you on the water. And if not online, that's equally as good. And I hope you have a good afternoon, a good evening, or a good morning, wherever you are in the world. Thanks for checking in today. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show. For notes and links from this episode, visit wetflyswing.com.